Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Melbourne AWS User Group podcast. I am your host, Arjen Swartz, and as always, I'm joined by my good friends, Jean-Manuel Becker.
Hello, good morning or good afternoon for the listeners.
And Guy Morton.
Hey everyone, how you going?
Cool. So today's a special episode as we'll be discussing all the goodies from reInvent as well as everything that came before in November, which is also often called the pre-invent period, where at the last couple of weeks before reInvent, AWS decides these things don't quite make the cut for announcements at the big show. So let's already get them out of the door. Personally, I always find that a whole bunch of those announcements are better than the ones at reInvent, but I don't make these calls. So there's a lot today. We will most likely not discuss everything. We will probably not discuss most things, as we would be here for a day or more. Then let's dive into it. As usual, we'll still start with finally in Sydney. We've got two announcements. The one that everybody has been waiting for, which is Snowcone SSD. This is Snowcone, which we all know and love its name of.
Yes.
But then the SSD version of it.
Which makes sense, right? It's much better to have an SSD than a normal hard drive into this kind of portable device for durability. So the normal hard drive version is 8 terabyte and the SSD version is 14 terabyte, which is awesome.
Yeah.
With 2 CPU and 4 gig memory and still very light and can be plugged into a drone. So fun stuff. We can have them in Sydney now.
Yeah. The idea of putting one on a drone really appeals to you, doesn't it?
I don't know. I saw the demo and it looks cool.
What do they actually weigh?
4.5 pounds. So it's
4.5 pounds, 2 kilos. 2 kilos in the proper metric system. Only Americans and they're 4.5 pounds. Goodness me. Get with it, people. Metric system for the win.
Well, I heard that the UK are going back to they're abandoning the metrics and they're going back to the pound as well. And now they're out of Europe.
I've heard that they're going to start living in caves as well and start mining coal and burning whale blubber to keep the lights on. So
Let's move on. There's the other announcement for Sydney. We are lucky to have the M6i instances. So they come in multiple flavors from 2 vCPU to 128 vCPUs from a cost in Sydney from 12 cents an hour to $7.68 an hour for the big one and the middle version. Very big instance. Cool to have.
They're SAP certified, ideal for workloads such as web application servers, backends, Exchange, SharePoint, SAP Business Suite, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
A lot of high-end businessy things.
So they use the Ice Lake Intel Xeon processor, like the I mentioned, the M6i, this means Intel now, 3.5 gigahertz and 15% better price performance than the M5. So you can upgrade for a better performance. And then you can have memory encryption as well with TME, which is the Intel encryption for memory. Can be useful for PCI compliance stuff.
Yep.
And that's it for Sydney. There is plenty of announcement at reInvent. We include Sydney, and we have been lucky, I think, in a lot of announcements, and I will mention them on the way.
Well, let's dive into it with one of the key items, as usual, of reInvent, and that was serverless. So we've got a whole bunch of services that are now serverless.
Or called as such.
Did you put air quotes around serverless just then?
Yes.
Pretty much. There are some limitations to how serverless all of these are. But let's first just name them and go from there. These are EMR serverless, which is in preview. Redshift serverless, which is also in preview. MSK serverless, which is in preview. SageMaker serverless inference, which is in preview. And under the same category, but it isn't called serverless, was Kinesis data streams on demand. So these were all announced in keynotes under the moniker of this is now serverless, which in most of these cases just means that you don't have to manage the instances anymore.
Or the capacity as well, yeah.
Yeah. So you're still in a lot of cases paying for a minimum amount of infrastructure to be running all the time, but you're your scaling is managed for you. That's essentially the kind of common thread here, right?
Yeah, it's try to forget the scalability and the high availability of the product. I'll take the example of EMR, which is still in preview. You can have different Spark jobs running in your EMR, needed a number of executors for the first 5 minutes and then scaling up for the last 20 minutes. So EMR serverless will scale automatically, but you still need to have this EMR running. One big thing I found with that product is the resilience and kind of multi-AZ failure, because EMR serverless is a regional service where everybody maybe don't know, but EMR usually is a single AZ service. So if your AZ goes down, which did happen recently, twice in different regions in the US, then you might have to rebuild your EMR cluster. With the serverless edition, then you will have some type of high availability and your job will be reallocated to another AZ, which is quite interesting for that product.
Yeah, and that's probably worth the price of admission alone in some use cases, I'm guessing.
Yeah, exactly. So you could run EMR in the past on EKS as well, on Kubernetes, and then try to make it, highly available this way. But now with that serverless edition, that's going to be very interesting, where you can scale for multiple jobs and come back and you just pay for the number of jobs you're running or the executor you're running, and then now a kind of a serverless multi-AZ regional version of EMR. It's interesting. For other products like Kinesis, a bit different. In the past, Kinesis, you had to pre-design your shards and plan in advance and, manage your shards, manage your data, which one are going to which shard and stuff like that. Now it's kind of almost like a Kinesis auto-scaling, which is on demand. So AWS can do that for you. You don't have to plan it in advance. However, you still need to have that pre-provisioning of, I think, 3 to 4 shards, I heard, depending the regions, to have your Kinesis running. And then AWS take care of the rest, which is still good. But recently we did some calculation for a customer, and having just one shard, a small ETL streaming, that was better and cheaper to have just one shard to do a couple of things on streaming than trying to use the serverless edition.
Yeah. So you're paying per stream per hour. You're paying for the data ingested. You're paying for retrievals. So So by the time you add all that up, and in fact, ironically, the pricing page shows examples of on-demand mode and provision mode. And the provision mode example is much cheaper by a factor of like 10. So it's interesting that their examples are kind of like that. You'd think that they'd be the other way around. The on-demand mode would show some cheaper example, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I also noticed that with most of these services, the pricing model is very different between the serverless and standard versions.
Pre-provisioned, yeah.
Yeah. Where pre-provisioned ones, usually you pay for the server and some data cost or things like that. While for the serverless versions, you suddenly have 3-4 extra
pricing dimensions, yeah.
Yeah, the storage or the number of requests per second or the retrieval, like we've seen. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I think, look, I mean, to give AWS credit, when they release a new product, they do tend to, I guess, review the pricing. So it may well be that this is sort of release pricing and they will adjust that once they get more data, because I guess they'll be looking to find out how people actually use this and what it actually looks like once they've got a bunch of use cases actually live. And, they do have a good history, I guess, of looking at pricing of their products and adjusting them when they're sort of a bit, when they discover, I guess, that it's so hideously expensive that no one wants to pay for it, like things like Macy, which have dropped in price a lot over the years.
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
there's lots of examples, I guess, where something comes out with a price that people kind of balk at. So yeah, expect these to find their level, I guess, over time.
So we have as well Redshift serverless. Ajay mentioned is still in preview in the US, East California, West, and Frankfurt, and Ireland, and Tokyo. That's probably to compete with the other cloud who do very big queries on demand with a serverless model.
It's okay to name the other cloud.
well, the multicolor one. You only pay for the compute you use and the duration of your workload per seconds, and you have that full elasticity as well, and serverless kind of option for your analytics now with Redshift.
Includes Redshift, yeah. So this one actually looked to me like it does kind of scale right back.
Yeah, I had a feeling as well.
Yeah, so it looks like one where you probably would be paying nothing overnight, for instance, if you were just using it during the day.
Aside from the storage.
Yeah, sure.
Because that is built separately, just like they started doing with the RA3 instance types, where you had the separate compute and storage.
Yeah, before Redshift, it was all local storage, right? So that was your instance, and that's it. And now with EBS and all the different options you have with storage with S3 and stuff like that, so it's built differently. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, and then the last one is MSK serverless in public preview as well. So for people who love Kafka, then they can use the serverless edition.
Yeah.
Quite a big competitor with another Confluent service, but can use Private Link, can use IAM as well. So to monitor that product, that could be interesting. A lot of more and more people are using Kafka.
Yeah, and this is one where you do have a fixed minimum spend, so the serverless model isn't quite as clean.
Yeah,
you've got a fixed per hour cluster charge. So yeah, you won't be getting it for free if you're not using it.
Yep. And it's in preview only in US East, in Ohio at the moment.
And I think that's probably true of all of these. They're all are any of these in Sydney? I don't think any of these serverless previews are in Sydney yet.
Yes, the SageMaker serverless inference.
Right. Okay.
That one is actually in Sydney.
Oh, so it is. Yep.
But we tend to forget about that one because it was mentioned in a different keynote.
Yeah.
Right.
So what can you do with that SageMaker serverless inference? You pay only for the duration of running the inference code. Okay.
Yeah, it seems like proper serverless, but I haven't looked too deeply into this one because, as usual, this is all above my pay grade.
Well, AI and ML has been quite a lot of push in the last 3 years of our reInvent, and there's many services this year as well released in that space.
And we'll come back to some of the other interesting ones there.
Yeah, I don't actually think there's example pricing on their on the SageMaker site either.
On the preview, no, the pricing is never clear. Yeah, in the preview model. Yeah. What else do we have in the serverless section?
Yeah, so there's some stuff around the serverless applications, the SAM, CI/CD options for building pipelines, bundling them with your SAM application. So templates for default pipeline templates for various CI/CD systems like Jenkins and GitLab and GitHub Actions and Bitbucket pipelines and code pipeline, etc.
Yeah, we discussed that one before. It's now just GA.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
I think more interesting ones are under the Lambda part. I think one that all three of us are happy about is the partial batch response for SQS. So where before, when you used SQS as an event source, it would send batches of messages and it would basically do a fail or pass on the whole batch. And now you can get partial response and the rest can go to the backup queue or however you've got it set up.
Yeah, so that's a lot more efficient than failing a whole batch. If you had a batch of 100 messages and one failed and you'd fail the whole batch and have to redo it again. Yeah. It's a very good thing.
And the other one that I'm personally happy about is the cross-account container image pooling for Lambda that run containers. I've mentioned my gripes with that in previous podcasts. Basically, you couldn't have a central place for your Lambda functions when they're running in Docker containers across different accounts. And now you can. That means you can actually deploy the exact same thing that you have in your dev environment, in your testing, and in your production environment.
All with the tag, I guess, on your ECR centralized. It's the idea, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's a good thing. The other big stuff, I would say, falls under Amplify. As usual, Amplify gets a lot of traction.
Yeah, well, it got a lot of pre-invent love as well, I think. There was, I'm just looking through my notes here, there was the integration with being able to create custom resources with CDK, override generated resources as well, export the backend to CDK. So there's a lot of nice stuff around I guess giving you a bit more control or a bit more flexibility as to how you choose to build your backend infrastructure with Amplify now. And CDK is being sort of plugged in as an option there. And there's a few features and announcements that were related to that.
What about the Amplify Studio? Did you have a look? Do you like it?
So it's really, I mean, I think maybe it wasn't called Amplify Studio before, but there's been the Amplify console that's been there for a while. So I think it's just a beefing up of that. They've added some nice features to it. So now you can import Figma designs and convert them into UI components through Amplify, and that's a pretty sweet feature, I think. But yeah, they've sort of really just expanded it, and I mean, a lot of it's stuff that if you've been using Amplify, you would have seen it before. But yeah, I mean, it's all good stuff, I think, in terms of just making that environment a lot more useful for developers. You know,
and developer friendly, yeah,
developer friendliness, yeah. But the Figma thing's is a big deal.
Yeah, a lot of people do Figma, right, to be able to do user experience, yeah.
And if you have to, currently, you know, most projects you end up sort of having to break that down and reconstruct things. So anything that can facilitate a process for sort of streamlining that as part of the workflow, I think is going to be a welcome feature.
Mm-hmm.
And that's available in Sydney Studio as well.
Yeah, that's cool. Shall we move to containers?
Yep, let's do that.
We have Fargate. I'm excited about this one. Fargate for ECS powered by Graviton 2 processors. So you have 40% improved price performance and 20% lower cost than running on Intel. So good improvement. ECS running Fargate on Graviton now. That's cool.
Yep, and that means you're lowering your greenhouse footprint too, aren't you?
Yeah, well, we will talk about the next sustainability pillars now who came and how AWS can encourage people to migrate to cloud to save carbon footprint. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Obviously, I like Fargate. I like Graviton too. This is a great announcement.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. What's not to like then?
Graviton 3 soon, maybe, on Fargate. That would be even better.
Yeah, it was interesting. I saw one of the announcements mention the Graviton 3 in the new instance type, which we'll probably get to later. But I thought, Graviton 3? What? When did that come out? And I missed it. But I think it's only just sort of poking its head over the parapet.
Yeah, it's all still bit preview.
Oh, that's great that AWS purchased, a CPU company and now kind of innovate as fast as other CPU companies. So it's nice to see. Graviton 2 just came last year, right? So
no, Graviton 2 came 2 years ago.
Well, okay. Oh, yeah. I haven't seen the last 2 years anyway.
We've all been asleep.
2020, yeah.
Yeah, what? Yeah.
What else do we have on ECS? Many announcements. Optimize AMI is open source now. New distro for telemetries. Just improvement on ECS. EKS, the one who I think find interesting is the Fluent Bit support. And as well, the EKS connector, which is a kind of an extension of the console of EKS inside the AWS console to be able to connect multiple Kubernetes clusters to the same console. And even on-prem Kubernetes or other cloud Kubernetes, I don't know if it is a response to Entos or other type of competitors, but that give you that one pane of glass, the word I hate.
A SPOG, you mean?
About your Kubernetes clusters in one view and if they are healthy or not. So yeah.
What about Carpenter?
Yeah, Carpenter. That's I like the name.
yeah. It's a rare good name. Yeah.
And it's a version Open 5 is generally available now.
Yeah, which is just wrong. Sorry to say it.
Yeah, you can't have a GA release of a 0.5, can you?
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. But it's the autoscaler for Kubernetes. So it's a new version to autoscale your EC2 instances.
Yeah, it's a horizontal scaler.
Yeah, horizontal scaler for EC2. I don't know if it works with managed node, or if you need to have your own EC2 node.
I actually don't know either. But yeah, as I've told other people, it's nice that it's GA, but I wouldn't trust my production workload on a 0.5 version until somebody else has tested it well for me.
I wouldn't trust my production workload on Kubernetes. That's it. Sorry. Every 3 months you need to upgrade and all the plugins don't work. So that's great production environment, is it? Okay, move on. We have ECR.
Yeah, that is another big one. The ECR pull-through case repositories. Or actually, it sounds a lot bigger than it is. First, the good part. This basically allows you to pull in image repositories that are hosted elsewhere into your ECR cluster so that you can do local calls to pull it in.
Right. So it's a little bit like Code Artifact.
Yeah, it's like Artifactory. Artifactory would do the caching of public repo,
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be a public one, can be private. The big use for this would, of course, be for pulling in items from Docker Hub, which had famously put in its limits several months ago. Unfortunately, that is not supported.
Yeah, because I was wondering, like, what AWS had to buy a license from Docker to be able to pull more and then give it to you through a proxy. What did they do? So it's not supported. Okay, no, sorry.
It's not supported. The only one that is supported according to the announcement was Key.io or Quay.io, depending on how you want to pronounce it.
Right.
Okay.
So after the announcement, I saw tweets that news regarding Docker Hub was coming very, very soon. They mentioned something about this afternoon, but obviously we're now a couple of weeks later and I haven't heard anything about that. So I guess we'll find out what is going to happen with that. And in the meantime, it is still fairly limited in how useful it is.
Okay. Yeah.
Shall we move on to one of the fairly big sections?
Yep.
EC2 and VPC.
Many new instances this month. What do we have? R6i. So that's, we talked about M6 before and C6. So now we have R6 with more memory.
Yeah. So this is actually something the way I saw this, because it is not just the R6i, but also I think M6A. So that's the AMD versions.
Yep.
They all got announced. They didn't get mentioned in keynotes. They all got either at pre-invent or just as a regular announcement during reInvent. So to me, this felt a bit like, look at how our trusted providers, Intel and AMD, now have instance types that are at the same level as our Graviton 2 instances. Here's Graviton 3.
Yes.
Yeah, could be.
Graviton is limited to 64 CPU, right? Where this one can go to 128, I think. So, yeah, not sure. So you can go much higher on the Intel space, and including the bare metal version, who can have 128 CPU and 1 terabyte of memory. So it's 33% more than the R5 and higher memory bandwidth as well. So if you have a big database or big, stuff you need to run in memory, then the R6 instance I are probably the instance of choice for you. And then in the same range, we have the M6i and C6i as bare metal, who came as well if you want to run your own hypervisors and other things like that with memory encryption we mentioned, and 15% more powerful than the M5 and C5 instance. Talking about another processor that AWS created, the Trainium based EC2 instance, so TRN1 instance. It's a second machine learning chips that AWS built and is dedicated to run natural language processing, object detection, image recognition, recommendation engine, and have 800 gigabit of EFA networking throughput. So very impressive. Much faster than the GPU machine for ML training on EC2. So
really cool as well. And you might think that TRN1 is the most tongue-breaking name of instances that were announced. You would be wrong, because we've also got the LM4GN and LS4GEN instances.
Oh, no.
Yes. In Graviton 2.
Yes. So these are storage-optimized instances with up to 30 terabytes of local storage.
Very impressive.
I think they should swap the instance type names for just like a QR code.
Do you remember the professional exam like couple of years ago, it was like you had to learn the M, the C, and the stuff. Now you can't learn all.
Yeah. What was it? Miss Doctor. What was it that was about Donald Duck or?
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. McGiffpix or something. McGiffpix. Yeah, Dr. McGiffpix. There you go.
Very impressive number of instances. Really, you can pick what you need, and I don't know if there is too much choices now. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the other ones were G5 and G5G instances. So those are GPU optimized ones, just the direct successor of the G4, except the G5G version is the Graviton version of that. Related, also Amazon got their hands on M1 Mac Minis. So just to clarify, these are not M1 Pro or M1 Max type instances. Those are unfortunately not available yet in Mac Mini size. So this is just the regular M1 that is still ridiculously fast compared to the Intel ones, and they're now available.
Yep, and they're also supporting Monterey and hot attach and detach of EBS volumes. So the Mac instance has got a little bit of love in a few places.
Yeah, in the past you had to reboot the instance to attach an EBS volume. Now you can do it on the fly. I'll remind everyone, you still need to buy that instance for 24 hours.
For a day, that's right.
Yes, and it's a bare metal style. You can find it on your console, but it's bare metal instance you need to buy for a day. That's Apple licensing. That's not AWS.
That is not AWS that has a control over that. That's pure Apple. The other thing, probably big news there, is Amazon Linux 2022.
Yep.
So we went from Amazon Linux without suffix to Amazon Linux 2 and now to 2022.
Which I just think is a terrible idea, but anyway, never mind. What's wrong with Linux 3? 3 is a nice number.
Yep. Instead, we get 2022 pre-announced in 2021.
That's right.
It's still in preview, so I'm guessing that they're expecting the GA to come within the next year.
Well, it has to now, doesn't it? They can't not, because they'd look stupid. But
they will secretly rename.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. I don't mind if they do it in like out in the open. It would be good. I mean, Windows 2022, there's some drive there to have an OS with 2022 in the name, just from a competitive point of view. Like, I don't know. I don't understand it.
Guy, it's a bit like, do you remember the 90s that you had games like SimCity 2000?
Yeah, I know, absolutely.
Everything had to be called 2000.
2000, yeah, I know, yeah.
So that's just the same thing here.
Yeah, I suppose actually that makes sense, because every 20 years things go back to the same as they were 20 years ago, right? It's a generational change. So 20 years later, everyone thinks, it would be really cool if we use the year. It's like Windows 2000 was that, right? So now they're going Windows 2020, 2022.
Well, they always used for the years for the server versions.
True. Yeah.
To talk about it, they will have a 2 years major release cycle, and they will be maintained for 5 years with support for each major release. So that gives some stability for people to build stuff on AWS. Do you know which version of Red Hat, or is it equivalent to? Is it version 8 or version 9? Because Linux 2 was Red Hat 7, right? Equivalent RPM stuff. I think it's probably 8 because 9 is still in preview. But now, since Red Hat and CentOS are different, I don't know, it's making it all complicated.
Yeah, I think it wasn't based on Red Hat anymore, if I remember.
They're talking about Fedora project, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. With SC Linux enabled by default. That's going to be interesting.
I suspect it's probably drifted quite a bit. And the common thing is just using the same package manager, I guess. So there's probably some compatibility that's required to keep that functional. But yeah, suspect they're doing their own thing wherever they feel like it, would be my guess. Wherever they feel like it works best for Amazon.
Shall we move to networking?
Yes, I think that has actually one of the biggest announcements.
The price reduction you mentioned?
The price reduction, yes. That seems to be a pretty direct response to the Cloudflare thing we've discussed previously.
So now you can have each month the first terabyte of data transfer out of CloudFront and the first 10 million HTTPS requests for free. and the first 2 million CloudFront function invocation for free as well, which is interesting. And then the free data transfer out of CloudFront is no longer limited to the first 12 months. So now it's a permanent free tier, which is interesting. And then 100 gig across regions. That's going to help me.
It's not necessarily cross region. It's just data out of
all
region.
regions.
Yeah. It's also going to the internet.
Yeah.
So your response from your load balancers, if you don't have CloudFront or anything in front of it.
Except China and GovCloud. Not that we probably care.
No, you can't.
I'm pretty sure that GovCloud has plenty of money, the people using it.
That's right.
And China, well...
You can't get out of the big firewall. It's like 20 packets per second. So, yeah. So that's pretty good. I think a price reduction for everybody who use AWS, that's going to be a big impact. And that's from the December 1st, 2021. So it's now.
So you're enjoying it now. Yeah. Cool.
So everybody can enjoy the lower bills.
And give themselves a nice Christmas present instead.
Another announcement, IPv6 only subnet on EC2 instances. So you can now, in the VPC in the past, you had to have IPv4 and IPv6 subnet, and every instances had the two type of IP attached to it. So that was still creating the limitation of scaling. Now, your VPC still need to be dual stack, so 4 and 6. However, you can create subnet now with just IPv6 and the routing accordingly and the security group accordingly, and the internet gateway accordingly, and then the egress only internet gateway accordingly. But you can scale to 18 quintillion IPs in your VPC. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that's a lot of instances.
Yeah, and now Kubernetes is supporting IPv6 as well, I believe, in the latest release. Then that would be able to, maybe you create your IPv4 VPC, couple of subnet IPv6, your cubes in there, all on IPv6. Yeah, can scale.
Yeah, just clarify, this is only for EC2 instances at the moment, from my understanding.
And network load balancer and application load balancer as well.
Yeah, the load balancers as well, but for example, not if you have an RDS running or anything else that is not standard EC2 instances.
Yeah. And it need to be the Nitro system as well. You can't use the old version of EC2. It need to be the Nitro, so all the new instance type. Yeah,
I think most of them are now Nitro, anything the modern versions.
But a T2 wouldn't work. You need a T3, I believe. Yeah.
They still haven't changed it, right? Where T2 is still the only one for the free tier.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. That's why I'm mentioning T2, because this is the one we use most of the time because it's in the free tier.
Yeah.
Mention as well, load balancer and network load balancer now can be dual stack, and then having IPv6 support for the target group. So that match what you can have in the VPC. So yeah. Another announcement to look at the transit gateway intra-region peering. Now, so in the past you could do between region peering between transit gateway, but you couldn't have two transit gateway in the same region connected together. Now you can. Good improvements, mainly to integrate, third party or partner manager network, that you can have a transit gateway connected to your transit gateway and contain and maintain the route and the route domains to do that. So that's a good improvement.
Yeah, but also if you have multiple transit gateways in your own environment, like a production and non-production one, for example, and your CI/CD system needs to talk to both. That way it can be a bit easier and you don't need everything together.
You can do double attachment, Arjen. It's what we were doing with the customer with the shared services. It will be attached to the two transit gateways. So you have a dev transit gateway and a pro transit gateway with the shared services attached to both, and then different routing for different environments.
Yeah, but then you had to move the routing in the VPC. I've done it in the past as well, because you can only point the 0.0 at one of them, and then you had to have separate CIDR blocks in your VPC pointing to the one
for prod and non-prod. Yes, and then you had to put a black hole route to stop the routing between dev and prod. So yeah, it was fun. But now you can do it with all managed through the transit gateway automatically. And they recommend to have a transit gateway with direct connect. You can have only 3 transit gateway per direct connect interface. So yeah, all fun Fun networking. Another product, I don't know if you heard, we have a VPC IPAM now on AWS.
Oh, yes, I saw that, yeah.
Help you bookkeeping IP addresses across all your accounts, and it's available in Sydney. Look at that. We are lucky.
And the nice thing with it as well, so you set it up centrally and in your organization, and you can ask it to scan all of your accounts and set up what's already there.
Oh, that's good.
So you don't have to manually then go back and fill everything in. It does that for you. And after that, you can assign IP ranges to accounts that can then be used by the people in those accounts to build their own things.
And what's the cost on that? Do you know? I'm just having a quick squiz at it, actually. IPAM. Hourly price per active IP address managed by IPAM. So that could add up a little bit. It's 0.00027 cents per active IP address managed by IPAM. So if you've got a /16, so if you had 5,000 active IPs, you'd be looking at $972 per month. So it could add up. I mean, 5,000 active IPs is a fairly big environment, I guess. So yeah, you just need to do the maths on it. But I guess if you, as you say, Arjen, if you can use it to do an audit, I guess, of your existing landscape, you can then have a pretty good idea of what it's going to cost you from that, because it's not based on the CIDR range that you've allocated to a VPC. It's the actually things that have got attached to things. So
I know a customer who used to manage your spreadsheet, have a Lambda function running every 15 minutes to do EC2 describe and extract the NIID and all sort of manipulation to find out the IP they have, because they had to have that control environment. So that, I think that's going to help quite a lot, and maybe it's worth the investment.
Yep.
Yeah, compared to that kind of work, this is cheap.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And as I say, if you had 5,000 actual active IPs in a landscape, the $972 a month would be small beer compared to what you're spending on compute, presumably.
Yeah.
Another product I'm eager to test, but I didn't have the opportunity yet, is the Network Access Analyzer to help easily identify unintended network access. So across all your network, across your VPC, you can ask that product or that service some type of questions that, which application do 443 to the internet, or is my production VPC can talk to my development VPC? We were talking about that before. And the network analyzer will give you an answer and the policies and the type of network traffic, who is allowed and not allowed. So interesting for auditing, and then interesting to review your network topology as well.
So presumably that's flow logs and DNS logs and things, and with some ML running over the top.
I think, yeah, they probably analyze the route, analyzing your NAC calls. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to analyze to understand if there is connectivity or not, right, between environment.
Yeah, security groups and things, yeah.
Yeah, but that would be, I'm eager to test that at scale to see what it looked like. And it's available in Sydney.
I mean, there's probably a bit of a theme to the announcements recently around some of these governance kind of tools. Like Audit Manager and Backup Audit Manager and all this new audit stuff to, gain better APRA compliance or better compliance with HIPAA and other type of regulatory stuff. Yep. What about Cloud WAN?
Yes, that's kind of encroaching into Cisco kind of world, right? SD-WAN and creating that network policy across all your networks. So it's something who encompasses not only AWS, but as well your on-prem network and how are they connected together, and look at your BGP routes and how do you exchange route as well. And that's available in Sydney as well.
Mm.
And I think I didn't see the announcement, but I heard about SiteLink as well. I don't know if you noticed SiteLink.
Yeah.
And how it works with Direct Connect now. That's again encroaching into your on-prem connectivity, where you can have a site A with Direct Connect and a site B with Direct Connect. While in the past you could connect them both to the Direct Connect gateways and then to your VPCs, but you couldn't connect site A to site B. Now with SiteLink, it's just one click when you set up your VIF on your Direct Connect. Then you can enable A to B without going through AWS. I mean, you still go through your Direct Connect, obviously, to create that link, but
Without going through the VPCs.
Yeah, you don't go through the VPC. You stay at the die connect gateway level, I guess, and then just come back down and connect multi-region, multi-environment, multi-data centers together by using the AWS backbone instead of building your own stuff. So in the past, we had kind of the triangle design, side A to B and to AWS. Now you can have just like a V design and then use AWS backbone to connect your two sides. Interesting.
Yeah, cool.
Some other things, not a lot of this is super exciting. It includes one of the worst names. So we now have a recycle bin for EBS snapshots.
Is that the worst name?
According to the poll that I started in the Melbourne user group Slack,
highly scientific.
It was not the worst. The worst one was CloudWatch RUM.
It's funny.
But RUM's just a standard name.
It's a standard name.
So yeah. There was things with worse names, I thought. Oh, evidently for a start, that's not great. And the other thing too, I've got a beef with is the fact that they've changed S3 Glacier. Now they've got S3 Glacier Instant Retrieval and S3 Glacier, S3 Glacier. So they've sort of branched it off.
Even more confusing.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you use? Which one?
Well, see, I reckon I've got a suggestion for AWS on this one. I think they should rename it S3 Glacier Instant Retrieval. They should call it Blizzard.
Oh, melted.
So you got Glacier, which is like cold and slow moving, but Blizzard is cold and fast moving, right? It hits you in the face, right? See, and then they would have had a different product name, and people wouldn't get confused. Now you're going to have S3 Glacier. Which one? Oh, the instant retrieval one. It's
No, they're gonna save the Blizzard name for a snow cone on top of a deep razor.
Yeah, so I didn't think snow because you've already got snow, but yeah.
Let's come back to our recycle bin for snapshot. I don't know why that product exists. If you do a mistake, it's for stupid people or something who delete the snapshot they don't want to. And so basically it's the same cost, but now you have a recycle bin. So you have one more chance to make sure that you want to delete your stuff, and you can put a retention policy, but you pay the same cost as a normal snapshot. So yeah, you have a bin now.
Yay.
More interesting is the archive product. Yeah.
The EBS snapshots archive. Again, just let's have as many tiers as we can in our storage systems.
That's right.
It is basically, I suspect under the hood, it basically just shoves it onto Glacier instead of regular S3.
But which one?
Well, it must be the instant retrieval because they can charge you. They charge you to retrieve it, right? So now you have a restore price now of 3 cents per gig, where in the standard snapshot you don't have any restore price. So and the cost is much cheaper. So instead of 5 cents per gig in the standard EBS snapshot, you pay just 1.25 cents per gig, but you need to store it minimum for 90 days. So that's really for your snapshot you want to keep for a while and don't touch.
Cool.
So this is basically where when you need to keep your snapshots for 7 years because of regulations, after the first month you just shove them all into archive because you're never going to go back to that unless you get somebody hijacking your data.
Mm-hmm.
So the next announcement I think it's a really nice one. It's CloudFront now supports configurable cores, security, and custom HTTP response headers. I think everyone's who's used CloudFront and cores before has had the pain of and frustration of having to use Lambda at Edge or CloudFront functions or Origin, your Origin Lambdas to generate the cores headers. Now CloudFront will do that for you. So that's a very, very nice developer-friendly thing.
So good improvement, and it's still free for the first terabyte. Yeah. We have the one I saw, EC2 auto-scaling now support predictive scaling with custom metrics. So in the past, predictive scaling was working only on CPU utilization, network I/O, or ILB request count. Now you can have your own CloudWatch metrics, like specific to your application, like the number of user sessions or something to do predictive scaling. And AI will scale your fleet of EC2 instances automatically for you, responding to that custom CloudWatch metrics. That's pretty cool.
Well, shall we have a look on the DevOps side?
Yeah.
Good idea. There were actually a couple of nice ones here. I mean, there's some new products. So like CloudWatch RUM. So that's a real user monitoring. Real user monitoring. That's what it stands for, isn't it?
Yeah.
So so there's a lot of RUM products out there, but Amazon, I guess, they went canaries. So why not go RUM as well? So this is a service that will give you lots of input about what your real user experience is likely to be on your web application. So it's instrumentation for your front end. So you get lots of stats about page load times and time to first paint and all those sorts of things. So that's nice. But the thing that I only just noticed today was the DevOps Guru for RDS. I thought that's a pretty cool looking announcement. Have you guys noticed that one?
It's only for Aurora, I think.
That's okay. I don't mind. If it's a start. It's a start. No, it says it's for RDS.
Oh, okay. Yeah, DevOps Guru, Aurora, MySQL, and Postgres edition in the US and Frankfurt, Ireland, Stockholm, Singapore, and Sydney and Tokyo. In Sydney, yeah. But it's only for Aurora. But no, that's good. And we'll detect bottleneck and help you understand better what's wrong with your SQL queries, probably.
Yep. So it looks at performance issues related to your database. So it'll help you diagnose issues and misbehavior of SQL queries. So I can think of...
So basically it runs and explain under the hood?
And performance insight, yeah.
But hang on, it runs the explain, but then it uses ML. So that's the important bit.
And then going to tell you should buy a bigger instance. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think that's a good thing. It's a good product.
I saw so many applications failing by poor queries or poor table space or index development, and he worked with 10 users, and then you put some load and everything fall apart with locks everywhere. So I think developers will get great help from that product.
Yep. Yeah, I worked on a certain campaign that happens once a year, a couple of years ago, that had a database problem. Yes, one of those campaigns that only runs for 6 weeks out of every 12 months. When it goes wrong, it goes spectacularly wrong. So this would have been nice to have this tooling.
You never worked for IBM, right?
Sorry, it wasn't the census, no. Yeah.
There was an announcement of a new name for the product is Elastic Disaster Recovery. It's rebranding and redesign a bit of the application of Cloud Endure Disaster Recovery. So you install an agent on your box and then replicate your machine to EC2 and then can fail over your on-prem environment in case of disaster. Yeah, cool name, but just move to AWS. Don't stay on-prem. AIC, CDK V2 GA. Go for it.
Yeah, yes. Well, I mean, the thing is, I've been using V2 for ages anyway, but it was really nice to see it finally GA, and it's now the official, because I think I was bemoaning recently that I feel like I jumped to V2 and they keep on releasing updates for V1.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But now V2 is now the official, is now officially generally available, so that's good. Yeah. Definitely, if you're not using V2 already, I'd suggest you get on it. You've got one package for all the CDK libraries. It's much nicer to use from that point of view. I haven't had any sorts of incompatibilities or weird JSII issues bite me since I've been using V2. And they've also got the way they're handling experimental classes is different now, so that they splitting those out. They'll never be bundled in as part of the main CDK lib. So that's some comfort there as well, I think. So you can expect it to be a little bit more stable generally. And the other thing is CDK Watch, which is the hot swap, or the hot swap, I think is what they're referring to it as, where if you're making a project and you're just making changes to things like Lambda functions or step functions, state machine definitions, rather than having to redeploy your whole project, you can just do it'll do a deploy of just the Lambda function or the step function state machines. So that's kind of a neat feature as well that comes with the latest version.
So V2 is available on JavaScript, TypeScript, Java, Python, .NET, and Go in preview. So people are going to be happy with that. Another what attracted me is the Construct Hub is GA as well. Have you had a look? There is a lot of so using the CDK for Kubes and AWS and Terraform, you can now publish and share libraries by the community to have example of CDK code. So, but it seems that GitHub is in the background, right? When you click on the different repo, you feel like it's a GitHub page. So
yeah, I don't know. Look, I think it's certainly one of those things where having more examples and more sort of sample code, I think, is going to be very helpful. Plus, people can make constructs for useful things. So I think that's a really good thing. There's definitely gaps, and you occasionally hit hurdles where someone solving the problem could probably release a construct that you could then use, rather than having to continually solve the same problem. So I think that's a good thing for the environment.
Yeah, that's cool. So what do you think? I mean, Terraform has been really in the market, and AWS now is kind of accepting the product as well, with Control Tower supporting Terraform and other type of things. How do you see CDK? Is it really going to take over everything?
No, because I think no. Look, I don't, and I think in a way they're sort of Amazon's sort of pitching it as. I think they're trying to sort of work with the other tooling. Because I don't think they're going to kill Terraform.
Oh, they don't want to kill it, but I mean, at the moment it was. I don't know, I've seen the market probably 70% Terraform, 30% CloudFormation in my customer. CDK is 0, but the way CDK is still, getting pushed and start to be questioned by engineers. Yeah, engineers are kind of, what about CDK? What about CDK? So I think that might come, yeah.
I see quite a bit of it, to be honest, in some customers. So some customers are all in on CDK, and others, look, if you have 5 years of Terraform code, you're not going to throw that away.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Cool. What else do we have?
Couple small improvements to stack sets. You can import your CloudFormation stacks into it, and you can run multiple operations simultaneously on your stack sets. All just nice things that can be useful, but not worth a long discussion.
Moving from CDK to SDK, we have SDK for Swift, Kotlin, and Rust, all in developer preview. It's interesting to see Kotlin. I thought that language was less and less used, but the rest makes sense.
Isn't Kotlin for like Android development?
It's a Java kind of bastardized, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it is used on Android development. So something that I'm hoping will come out of, at least in the Swift one, is, who knows, maybe we'll get proper frequent updates on the mobile app. I might even try it again if it works at some point.
Yeah, apparently Kotlin is used by over 60% of professional Android developers. So there you go. It is the dominant language in Android land.
That's my ignorance. I'm using Apple. Sorry.
You just don't know enough Android developers, obviously.
No. What else do we have?
Some Proton stuff. You can now use Terraform with Proton.
Yeah.
It's another one of those things.
Crossover, yeah.
Yep, but I still don't know what to use Proton for, so moving on. This is one that I quite enjoyed. I don't like Image Builder because I still think it doesn't work well, but now you can share AMIs with organizations and OUs. I think this is basically just, now that I talk about it, last month's announcement that you can share AMIs that way, but now you can do it from Image Builder. So I don't care as much about it as I thought, because we've already discussed the real announcement.
Yeah, but I mean, it's quite useful. If you add an account to your OU, then automatically that AMI will be there to be able to consume if you have an SOE in your environment. So that's a cool feature. We had to copy, if you remember, a couple of years ago, and changing KMS keys and all the rest was a nightmare, right?
You can't really skip over evidently, I don't think, given it's a whole product release. Yeah, so this is about deploying new versions safely into your environment. So it gives you some, I guess it's related to RUM in the sense that it's looking at the user experience for your new release, and it lets you manage like a controlled release of your new version and rollback, or not rollback, but to redirect your users to the last good version if you find that your new code is causing a lot of errors or unhappiness.
It's like a canary monitor, is it?
It's evidently as part of CloudWatch's digital experience monitoring capabilities, along with synthetics and RUM. So so it's all part of that same set, and it is available in Sydney. So if you're looking for something to help you do some A/B testing or some canary release type stuff, or blue-green release, you might find that evidently fills a need and worth having a look at.
Just ignore the name.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one.
And there is a blog post about it.
About the name?
No, about showing how it operates and how you can move from one environment to the other.
So there is, yep. So check it out if you're interested.
Security then.
Yep.
The one I like was the CloudTrail announcement about CloudTrail can do error rate insight now. So monitoring the number of error in your API and kind of denied API access. So if you deny someone access to RDS or other things, then that product will give you some insight about some alarm, and how your API works usually, and what CloudTrail get usually, and then what's out of the norm, and alert you in case you get attacked. Or so these people start generating multiple EC2 instances in your VPC, or try to. Yeah, so that's interesting. So on CloudTrail, bit of improvement on that.
Yep, does look good.
Has either of you looked at the new version of Amazon Inspector?
Yeah, it's called Inspector V2 now, and is kind of different. First, you don't need an agent, which is awesome. You use your SSM agent from the normal EC2 to be able to do that, and then it's installed across your organization, across all your accounts as well, and can do scanning, and can scan your ECR as well, registry. And that's done automatically and give you some type of alert. But let's say if you have a CVE on one of the instances, and that instance is public, it might rate that problem to 10. Where if that instance is just private, it will rate that problem to 8. So it helps you as well to scale and to understand the risk of your CVE factor. Could have been maybe useful with the Log4j problem we had just had recently. Quite more expensive, but you can migrate from one to the other, and V1 will still be there, but I think AWS would like you to move to V2. I like the fact that you don't have to install another agent on the box.
Yeah, I mean, it would install it for you, but it is a lot easier if you don't have to deal with it at all.
Yeah, you just use the SSM. I mean, everybody uses SSM today, right? And with SSM, you have logs now, and then you have Inspector. So one agent to do it all. I
think the other nice announcement in the security space is the DDoS mitigation with AWS Shield. It's set up now to. This is a neat idea. So it will look for anomalous traffic, and it can add WAF rules to counter those events that it's seeing dynamically.
So it's Shield Advanced, right? So that's a paid product. In the past, there was the AWS Shield response team who were doing that things for you. So they were looking at the traffic, correcting the rule, applying the rule, and then calling you and say, hey, you're under DDoS. So now they remove that human factor, and they have an automated way of analyzing your traffic, and when something is suspicious, then creating a WAF rule for you automatically and start blocking the traffic.
Yep. And then taking it out again later on too. So it's automating that whole process of detecting an attack, doing something about it, and then removing the mitigation once the attack's over. So that is neat. I mean, it's a shame it's only part of advanced, because that's obviously expensive. But I think you probably be optimistic. I'd be optimistic enough to think that once they get that sort of bedded down sufficiently, that maybe there'll be some.
They can be leaked over to To the free version, yeah.
Well, maybe not a free version, but maybe they put in a in the same way that we have now Glacier immediate retrieval. They'll probably have a WAF, somewhat advanced product, and it'll get that.
You could do it yourself. I mean, I've seen some design where you analyze a log, you create some type of filtering, you have a Lambda function who kicks in and create the ACL rule to block that IP/32, whatever. But this one is more the layer 7 level, so it's really focusing on stopping a very dedicated type of attack on queries or other things who can hurt your workload.
Yeah, and I mean, given that it's layer 7, I mean, it could just be a WAF extension, couldn't it? Really? And I guess the thing is, JM, I'm incredibly lazy, so the idea of having to build all that stuff for something that AWS already knows how to do. Well, why don't they just, give me the thing that I want, but not make it too expensive? That's, there's a bit of feedback for them. So,
well, talking about that, there was an announcement about the WAF
supporting capture.
Capture, yeah, that's pretty cool. You had to do it with external product like Google before. Now you can do it straight from the WAF and make sure that you are human.
Have you actually looked at what's the user experience of that actually look like?
No, I didn't test it yet, but it's always annoying. It's always annoying. Clicking on bicycle or on plane or on boats, it's always annoying. But I think it's a needed features now. And so now you can do it from AWS.
I'm just interested to know what it actually looks like. So, but there's no example here. So,
yeah. So one thing that I think is really neat that they announced in the security thing is with AWS SSO, that you can now use that for a one-click login to your Windows instances. So basically that means you don't need local users anymore, but it's that it uses the users from your AWS SSO setup.
Okay.
Which is really nice.
But how does that work? Because your Windows SSO is going to be joined to the domain, right? And if SSO use Okta, that's your domain as well. So you need to still have security groups and stuff like that in your domain to be able to log into that machine, even if SSO gives you access to it. I don't know. It needs to be tested.
So the way I see it is you can connect your instances with the users from AWS SSO or any of the supported identity providers.
Yeah, you have Okta, ping, and one login, yeah.
And then you probably... I haven't tried it out, but I suspect you can use a similar way that you add applications or AWS access and all those things in your SSO, or manual click work, because they still don't know how to build
an API.
Sorry, they've got APIs, just not for anything user related, which is kind of the important bit.
It's the scary bit, probably.
No, that's good to see. I mean, less and less multiple login, more centralized, using SSO for that.
It is similar to using SSM Session Manager, but then for the graphical interface.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Control Tower in the security space, there was an announcement who were really painful in the past. You couldn't use nested org unit into Control Tower. You had to define SCP per account. Or so now you can have a standard organization OU design and having nested OUs with scalable SCPs and SCPs inherit each other and stuff like that, where in the past it wasn't possible. So that good improvement for Control Tower. You still need to upgrade your Control Tower version though. And then with that come couple of new improvements for Control Tower as well, with data residency requirements. So you can control which region you can activate or not, and then deny some services as well from Control Tower to block people using certain service, where in the past that was not possible. You had to do it yourself. And then the last one is the Terraform account provisioning for Control Tower. So in the past there was it was called AWS personalization, I believe, for Control Tower, with CloudFormation and a series of code build and code deploy. Code build and code pipeline to deploy CloudFormation templates. Now you can link that with Terraform and use your Terraform module into a repo, and when you create a new account, Terraform will be deployed. So it's going to be weird. You're going to have Control Tower is ClickOps, automation for Control Tower is still going to deploy a lot of CloudFormation template, and then you have Terraform on top who's going to do all the things for personalizing your environment. So I don't know, not especially like it. You need to pick one. I think you need to pick one. You do all Terraform, all Control Tower, CloudFormation. Having both seems weird to me, but that's okay.
Data storage and processing, which is about a quarter of all the announcements. So I propose we go through this one
really quickly. Yeah. So RDS Custom for SQL Server. This is one of those ones where I think there's probably some untapped demand. So it's RDS, but it gives you some control over the underlying infrastructure, so you can actually tinker with the underlying OS and DB environment. It supports SQL Server and I think Oracle as well, or am I...
Yeah, Oracle was announced in October, so you could do Oracle custom at the time, and reInvent, they announced RDS custom for SQL Server. Same problem though, you can, access the OS, you can do RDP to the box, which was, unthinkable a couple of years ago to be able to do that. However, you still need to build yourself your availability groups, high availability, install SQL and all that. There's a lot of things you need to do now. But you can, install older versions, keep updates, install some stuff, SSIS and all of that you couldn't do on RDS before. So,
but isn't this product exactly for those people who want to tinker with these things, or who have to for whatever reason? Yeah.
Yeah, but why doing RDS? I mean, okay. Well, you do it on EC2 already. It's kind of halfway. This is kind of halfway.
That's why it's called RDS Custom. Like Glacier Immediate Access. I won't let it go.
You still end up doing less work than you would if you run it on EC2.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
I guess that's the thing, is that you're still picking up some of the management, yeah.
So especially like the backups and things like that, you don't have to...
Oh, I definitely can see a lot of customers going to jump on that opportunities where they were stuck before and had to use EC2. Now they can use that product, so yeah.
Yep, so it's all good. But get off SQL Server anyway.
Yeah, go to Babelfish.
That's what Babelfish is for. Yeah. Postgres for the win. Yep. Good. Okay.
Speaking of Postgres and MySQL, the other big one here, I would say, is a new multi-AZ deployment option. So up until this announcement, if you did multi-AZ for your database, that basically meant you paid for 2 instances. Only one of them was actually being used, and the other was just standing there in case you needed to run an update or you needed to fail over. With this new way, you actually get a couple of read-only databases in the other AZs that are then kept in sync. And when the failover needs to happen, it just switches one of those over to the master.
Yep. So this is gonna confound all the people who have been studying for their SA Pro certifications, because one of the questions they love to ask is, they've got an AZ configuration. Read replicas. No. Multi-AZ, there's no redundancy. It's just you only have the one master. The other one's just a standby. So now it's going to be more complicated.
Yeah, but that was the main advantage of Aurora, right? Aurora, you had your master and you have a read replica, and that was giving you at the same time high availability. Now you can do the same thing with RDS itself and Postgres and MySQL. So interesting. It's good improvement though. Less wastage.
Absolutely. Is it more expensive? I'm guessing it probably is more expensive than just a plain multi-AZ deployment.
It's just in preview at the moment, so we don't know the price, and it's only in Virginia, Oregon, Ireland.
I suspect it is more expensive though, because instead of having 1 extra instance, you suddenly get 2 extra instances.
And plus also obviously you can read from them. They're not just sitting there. They're actually going to be used, so yeah, you'd expect that to cost something.
And there were limitations as well, actually, in that regard, with the instance types that you can use it with.
In the past, failover from one to the other took between 30 to 60 seconds, or even more. Maybe with that model, the failover will be faster as well. So that will be good to see.
Yeah, I think there was something in there about how fast the sync. So it's essentially asynchronous. When I say asynchronous, I mean a synchronous, not asynchronous replication.
Yeah, but it always has been, but across multi-AZ, but the failover will probably be faster because the instance is up instead of being switched off, I would say.
Yep. Let's move on.
Neptune and MemoryDB have Graviton two options.
Yep.
Or MemoryDB actually is just a T4G option.
With a 2 months free trial, but it's just cheaper with the same thing.
Yep. And surprising to me, DMS had a lot of updates.
Yeah.
Database migration service. So a couple interesting ones is that they now have literally added new sources for Azure SQL managed instance.
Google Cloud, like shot fire, that's for sure. Like, we want your business to move from Azure SQL, to RDS or other places inside AWS.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that they added those. They also continued with their way of calling things Studio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the DMS, a new DMS experience and DMS console. Yeah.
And the Fleet Manager, the Fleet Advisor. So that's a discovery and an analysis tool to look at your database workloads and analytics workloads and give you advice as to what to migrate them to.
Yeah, in the past you had to ask ProServe, I think, to help you to download that product. Now they give it as part of DMS, which is interesting. Yeah. So to analyze your workload and your database themselves. So it's going to be helpful to some customers.
Yep. And of course, it introduces time travel.
And everyone said that was impossible.
Yes.
But there you go. They've got a product. We're back to the future. Yeah. The naming of things is so inconsistent, isn't it? Yeah, because did this need a name? It's an improved logging mechanism.
Yeah, so obviously time travel.
Yeah, because they store the logs on S3, so you can come back to the migration before a certain time. So that might be useful when you do ETL processes and stuff like that, if they fail and then try to come back and resubmit. I don't know if that's going to be that useful for a pure migration. To be tested.
Yep.
Other announcement in the storage space, DynamoDB. Now with a new standard infrequent access table class, which give you a 60% reduction in storage with the same table performance. So interesting. Well, they put that onto Glacier as that retrieval.
Continuing the theme of there being always has to be more than one class of storage for every product.
Give you a choice. It's about choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many instance types did they mention again that they had now? 400 something?
I don't know, yes.
Yeah, that really helps narrow it down for people.
But maybe some saving on DynamoDB for people who, want to archive tables and stuff like that. So that could be interesting to use for certain tables, probably, yeah.
I think that would be very useful for people who've got a lot of data stored away in DynamoDB tables that they kind of need to hang on to for years, and
Well, usually you do data stream, you stick it to S3 and then you retrieve it this way, but yeah.
That might be the right way to do it, JM, but that doesn't mean that that's what someone's done. So, storage class will save people some money, I'm sure. S3?
You want to talk about the Glacier instant retrieval? Give you 68% storage cost saving.
That's good. It's a shame about the name. Let's just call it Blizzard from now on. I'm just going to make a unilateral decision. The new Amazon S3 Blizzard saves you how much, JM?
It's 68% to compare infrequent access storage class, and 10% cheaper as well for the retrieval cost if you do bulk retrievals.
Right.
Yeah. And then there's also now the flexible retrieval. That is the old Glacier style.
That's right. Yeah. So that's just Glacier as it always was, but they still reduced the price by 10%, and bulk retrievals are free. Yep. So that's good. Yep.
A great improvement on security on this tree, though, and it was quite hidden. Object ownership can now be disabled on the S3. That's so good because
this is one of I think lots of people's probably favorite announcement of the whole 2 months. It's just this one little thing. I did it the other day. I enabled this. I was like, that was so easy and great.
You remember they was showing you like your S3 might be public because they couldn't certify it in case you putting an ACL being public, right? But now with that options, you can enforce that every object are owned by the owner of the bucket. So you don't have to put that on your S3 command as well to upload. and that make sure that your S3 bucket is protected through your IAM identity, bucket policies, and stuff like that. And ACL can't mess up all of that by just opening a hole basically on your S3 security. So yeah, very great improvement. Tiny announcement, but great improvement, I think, on security for S3.
Yeah,
definitely. It would be nice if they just got rid of them completely, but I'm guessing they can't because there's a lot of people using it. But yeah, basically, the ACLs predate IAM usage because it was the original way that you used S3, and IAM did not exist yet, but now it does. So
please on S3, block security, enforce that ownership now, use KMS, not SS. No, not storage, server-side encryption only. Just use your own KMS with your own policy, encrypt your data, and use bucket policies. That's the only way to protect your stuff.
Also, more on the pricing side, if you're using the intelligent tiering for S3 that now has the archive instant access tier, I don't know why that needed to have yet another name, because I suspect that it's just Glacier instant retrieval under the hood. But S3 intelligent tiering now has the Blizzard tier.
Thank you.
And some other S3.
Yeah, the event bridge thing, that was...
The integration, that's good, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that before.
But that was not event bridge, so you couldn't find out and you can do manipulation, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So it was an event bridge, that's right. Yeah. CloudWatch events, yeah.
So now you're in event bridge, so you can do all sorts of manipulation on your events and filtering and stuff like that, yeah.
And lots of integrations with other services and blah, 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 yeah.
So that good improvement as well for that.
Yeah.
FSX, we've got a new FSX, which is OpenZFS.
Yay. I don't know who used that, but yeah.
FreeBSD fans. That's come from the FreeBSD project, isn't it? OpenZFS.
It is from one of the BSDs. Yeah, I don't remember if it's free or open.
Yeah.
And FSX for Lustre v2, basically.
Where you can link with Amazon S3 and manage data this way to be able to scale faster. Yeah.
Yeah, basically it is running on Graviton instead of Intel, so it's better for the environment and it's better for Amazon's pockets. It's better for performance.
It's better for the environment. Yep, good.
Backup preview for backup on S3. What is that? So suddenly you can. So it's in preview, but from AWS backup now you can do backup your S3 bucket.
Yeah, so it's snapshots basically. That's the point in time restore, I guess. You obviously got versions, but this is like a snapshot of a whole bucket, I guess.
Yeah, it's great. But where do they store it?
I'm going to take a wild guess.
But you can store into another account, right? AWS backup, you have the vault, and you can move that to a different account. So that gives you that type of isolation and security. And that's all your backup in one place. I had customer who asked me, how do I backup S3? In the past, I was looking at them. It's like, what? It's just do versioning and you're fine. But yeah, no, that makes sense. That's probably a demand from some customers in the audit space. And we'll see the cost when it comes in. But
there's definitely use for it because versioning and all that stuff can be probably a lot more expensive than what you need.
Yeah.
And similarly, it now supports Neptune and DocumentDB with MongoDB compatibility.
So really, that's a backup all. Even VMware workload. Look at that.
Yeah, that's right.
If you have to.
If you have to.
Which you do. Yeah.
To keep up the theme, data tiering for Elasticache for Redis. So they have introduced, I think, a second tier where you can store your data. Basically, it's a mixture then of SSDs in the clusters and the regular storage. It only works with the R6GD nodes.
Okay.
Right. So it basically shuffles it out of memory and puts it onto NVMe SSDs, and the costs, the performance difference is 300 microsecond latency, apparently. So it's not a lot. But
so you move from memory to SSDs for on-memory cache database caching system, which is supposed to be memory. Okay, yeah, whatever.
You got to have an extra tier. They needed to find a way.
And next one is S3 and then Blizzard after that.
That's right, exactly. There was a lot of SageMaker announcements. And if you're into SageMaker, maybe check them out.
Yep. But Amazon SageMaker Studio Lab allows you to basically play around in a environment where you don't have to set up anything. You can experiment. It's free. It's outside of the regular AWS environment. And yeah.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
Let's move to other cool stuff. Enterprise on-ramp is a new support tier from AWS and is $5,500 a month per account, and or 10% of your monthly usage, and it will provide you expert to help you to launch your AWS instances. So yeah, that's a different tier. Usually business is 7% of your bill, and then enterprise is quite expensive. So this one is kind of halfway.
Yep.
One of the announcements which I can't quite see here is the. Did you notice the local zones announcement of lots of 30 new local zones in major cities around the world? And there's one coming in Australia, and I figured that's got to be Perth, right?
Or Canberra.
Canberra's so close to Sydney. Why would you put one in Canberra?
Government.
I would have thought that they'd put it in Perth because there's the latency across the Nullarbor.
All the mining and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's lots of money to be made, I would have thought, from customers in the West.
No, you're right, because, AWS Sydney is Arab compliant now, so you should be able to host most of the government stuff in Australia. Perth is probably a good point, and they have already direct connect over there, so that makes sense too. And we're going to get our own 3 AZ in Melbourne in September. Yoo-hoo!
I know. Next year. It's not even a year to wait now. That's right. So exciting.
Talking about local zone and other local stuff, now there is 2 new outposts, and they're going to be interesting to see. They are available in Sydney as well. You can buy them. So there's a 1U version and then a 2U version. The 1U come in Graviton 2 with 64 vCPU, 128 gig memory, and 3.8 terabyte of flash storage and NVMe. And then the 2U version come in Intel edition with 64 CPU, 128 gig memory, and another version with 128 vCPU and 256 gig memory, and more storage, like almost 8 terabyte of flash. Cost-wise, the Graviton one is $21,000 up front, and the big one on Intel is $40,000 upfront, so you can buy them. And you can have that connected to your AZs and run AWS on your own on-prem. EC2, ECS, couple of products, not S3 yet, I believe, on this new version. But however, if you run Windows EC2 instances AMI, you will need to pay as well 73 cents per hour of Windows licensing. So be careful. If you run Amazon Linux, you have nothing to pay. Just your hardware. If you run Windows, you will need to pay as well AWS for the licensing from Microsoft. That will send probably the money back to Microsoft anyway.
That's already the case with the regular, with the other outposts as well, isn't it? Yeah, correct, yes. But yeah, AWS is in the storage market and compute market now. Oh, and don't forget the telecom market.
Oh, yeah. Talking about that, you can create your own private 5G. It's only for the US at the moment, but yeah, you can create your own private 5G hardware.
The main use case for this, I think, is sort of industrial sites where you're doing IoT and you need to create a private 5G network to collect your data and share your data. I guess it's one of the main use cases for this.
So there's no upfront fees per device. It's just a per device cost connected to the private 5G network, and is scaled automatically apparently, and they produce your own SIM cards, and so yeah, they go to the networking market now. Yep.
And speaking of modern things, mainframe modernization.
It is in preview. You can modernize your mainframe.
Yeah, I believe it's basically a program to help you shift things to mainframe to something slightly more.
So you have two modes. You have the replatforming mode and the automated refactoring mode. I think it's more to do a deep analysis of your mainframe and understand the effort to be able to migrate it and understand what type of migration you need to plan for the next, 2 or 3 years of your life to do that. But it's something coming. We see mainframe, they becoming older and older. There's less and less talent to be able to maintain mainframe, and the migration to a serverless batch type model on cloud makes sense.
And this is using a third-party product, essentially, as I understand it.
They purchased a company for that, yeah.
They've purchased someone, yeah. Yep.
Other interesting one is AWS Stack Overflow, the AWS repost.
Yes, have you joined? I joined. You get flooded with spam. If you select a couple of section, you get email. Hey, dear JM, would you like to help this customer? And blah blah blah. So it's interesting. There is a lot of questions, but I had to create a rule in my email system to put them somewhere.
Yeah, I wonder if they imported the questions just from Stack Overflow or from the old forums.
This seems to be old stuff. Yeah, this seems to be old stuff as well. But I'm sure we can learn something. Yeah. And that's going to be linked with your AWS support, apparently, and that's linked with your AWS account. But you can join with that on the AWS account as well. So, but no, I think it's good. You will be able to search. It's really like a big repo of questions now, and that could be helpful to answer FAQs you have seen before.
Yeah. I wonder how long it is until it will be integrated into the console.
Like the blogs.
Yeah, like the blogs and all the other things.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think their search facility is a little bit overly generous at the moment, because I put in quite a specific search and I'm seeing all the same questions on the front page as I saw before I entered a search criteria. So I don't know. I don't know if that's just me. But I don't think so. No, I think there's 90 questions in the system at the moment, and that's because there's only one page of questions. So, yeah.
No, I see 3,000.
Oh, there's more? Oh, it's just that's the UI. It's just that UI thing.
Yeah, after you've pressed enter on the search, like I queried how do I stop an EC2 instance, and I get 3,000 different questions that don't quite match.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It looked a bit like the search was a bit vague, not very specific at all. But anyway, I won't judge it now.
Moving on, couple things for the well-architected framework. So we've already hinted at the sustainability pillar, which is nice. And basically, if you're familiar with the well-architected framework, it's a series of questions aimed at determining your status. And the sustainability pillar is unsurprisingly around making sure that you use the least amount of power and things like that. I haven't actually looked at it in detail yet, but I suspect it will have questions like, do you use Graviton for everything?
Yes, you should use Graviton. You should use RDS Graviton. You should use EC2 Graviton. You should use ECS Graviton. So yeah, I did analysis for a customer in TCO because there is some data on that and some public data about the way we consume energy as well in Victoria, where we are. And the saving for the customer was around 79% of CO2 emission to compare on-prem moving to AWS. So it's obviously average and industry average and all that, but very interesting. And for that customer, it was around 60 cars off the road per year migrating to cloud. So I think AWS here found a new angle. Like, yeah, you can be elasticity, you can have reliability in cloud, you can have all the new things, but now you can even help you on your CO2 emission. If you migrate, you will save 79%.
Yeah, so instead of the TCO calculator, it'll now be the CO2 calculator.
Yes.
Yeah, that's also coming.
Yep.
There was no official announcement post for it, so it's not in the list, but in one of the keynotes, it was mentioned that there's going to be a carbon footprint calculator.
Yeah, I think that's really good. It's I think it's good that it's part of the well-architected framework too, and hopefully it's not just, as you say, JM. It isn't just, are you using Graviton? Are you using Graviton? Are you using Graviton? Hopefully it'll be in much the same way as the well-architected framework does, focus people's mind on a lot of behavioural aspects of how they do things. Hopefully, it'll cover a bunch of that sort of stuff in the sustainability pillar as well.
Yeah, it will go deeper. It will be like, are you using Graviton in one of our carbon neutral regions?
Well, which is Australia, right? I think 2025, Australia should be fully.
Yeah, I think they want all of them, I think, around that time to be carbon neutral. I think at the moment was it Ohio and the Canada ones that are carbon neutral?
Yeah, and Amazon is building the biggest, I think, solar farm here in Australia to promote carbon-free emission electricity generation for the data center. So pretty cool.
But then Jeff goes and builds a big rocket and blasts all that pollution into the atmosphere.
And send rubbish down back to Earth.
Yeah, space junk. Yeah. Jeff.
Okay, let's give Guy a moment. IoT.
I haven't looked at the IoT announcements, so don't give me a moment.
But it has wonderful names like Twin Maker.
Oh yeah, no, I saw the announcements, and there was nothing there that kind of tickled my fancy particularly. Yeah, the Twin Maker thing was probably the closest to it, but most of the things they're sort of fleet management, there's site-wise enhancements, there's...
I know which one you want, yeah, the site-wise hot and cold storage tiers.
But they call them hot and cold. What's wrong with infrequently accessed? Come on. Yeah. Well, given that it's site-wise, they really should have some kind of more industrial flavour, shouldn't they? I don't know what that is. I'll work on it and get back to them with a superior name idea. Yeah. So yes, lots of IoT announcements, but yeah, a lot of them to do with really just managing existing fleets, not really making anything new. Twin Maker's probably the closest to doing something new.
What about Robot Runner? Connect robots to each other and the rest of your industrial software systems to make them operate in concert together.
I think that sounds vaguely creepy. Connecting robots to one another. I'm sure if they want to connect themselves to one another, just let them choose their own partners and don't try and have forced marriages of robots. Come on, I'm sure there's something about. I'm sure Asimov had something to say about that. So yeah, but yes, I'm sure that's quite an interesting product. And I'm sorry to be disappointing you by not knowing all about it and having something intelligent to say.
Almost every one of these announcements is preview only. We'll just save our disappointment for when you don't know what they are once they go GA.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, okay, good. Yes, look, I think fair enough. And when they do go GA, I will make sure that I've got something quasi-intelligent to say about it, at least.
I think that's it for the news.
For 2021 and the news and reInvent, and there'll be announcements throughout what's left of December, I'm sure, but we'll catch up with them in the new year.
Yep. This literally just went until the end of reInvent, and everything after that is for January, because as usual, January is going to be a bit light on news. Something to do with this weird thing called Christmas breaks that people go on.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what was your favorite announcement?
I don't know.
We didn't mention that TimeStream's gone GA at last, I think, isn't it?
Oh, there was a TimeStream announcement somewhere.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think it's here. I think my favourite announcement is actually the ability to disable ACLs on buckets.
Yes, probably. And the free tier for CloudFront and egress data for 100 gig, I guess.
Which is kind of a bit sad in a way, because that's a month and reInvent, and the best The most exciting. The most exciting.
We are blasé. We are blasé about the new stuff.
Well, I think the thing is that a lot of what's been announced feels like improvements to management tools. It's refinement. It's improvements to management. It's kind of management and doing backups better, doing user doing RUM and things like that. It's doing stuff better. It's not really something brand new that you couldn't do before. I think that's kind of how it feels to me. Like all of reInvent felt a little bit like that to me.
Yeah, more instances, more way of doing things, more storage, more code tiers.
Yeah. More things called serverless. Yeah.
What about you, Arjun?
I actually, while I am really happy with the S3 stuff, the ACLs, and also the CloudFront, the pricing thing, I actually think I will, and I've had this discussion before, I will vote for the Graviton 3, mostly because of the sustainability angle there.
Yeah, cool. And I just remembered also CDK V2 went GA, so that's probably one of the other ones. And yeah, the CloudFront be able to write headers. I think those three announcements were probably the most impactful for me personally. But yeah, the Graviton 3 definitely good. It's only present in one instance type at the moment, but I'm sure it'll come soon to a bunch of different things.
Yeah, I suspect that we'll see it roll out quicker to other services than
Graviton 2 did, yeah. Less testing?
Yeah, because it's now they've already ported everything to ARM, so it's just let's switch out our RDS instances to run on Graviton 3 instead of 2.
Yep.
Thank you all for listening to what has turned out to be a pretty long episode. I hope you'll learn something new, or at least enjoyed us talking about the things. As always, I want to thank the user group sponsors for their support. That's our gold sponsor, CMD, and our silver sponsors, CIVO and Versant. And of course, also, I want to thank my beloved co-hosts, Guy Morton.
Thanks, Arjen, and I belove you as well.
And Jean-Manuel Becker.
Thank you, Arjen. Thank you, Guy. Always a lot of fun to do this.
Yes.
And thank you, listeners, to go through our rants and insight on what we think about AWS products.
We love both of you.
Yes, and of course, keep in mind that the podcast will soon be available in infrequent access.
Blizzard mode.
Mode. Also, just remember the website for the user group is melb.awsug.org.au or AWS Melb on Twitter. Join our Slack where you can join more of these weird discussions with a lot more of our community. Thank you all for listening, and we'll be back next year.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone. Bye-bye.